Hi, everybody. Welcome to Obsidian Dawn Studios. I'm your host, Chris, and here at the studio, we delve into the intricacies of Unreal Engine 5. On this channel, here at the studio, we go over everything game design related, and each week's video will be detailing individual techniques and mechanics from Unreal Engine. Each video will be going over a whole host of topics, everything from animation and rigging to material creation and lighting, and in each video, we will be showing a technique or material that we are creating, and then we will be creating a level to showcase the item later on, with the intention of sparking some inspiration. In today's video, we're going to be going over a new topic that I have just discovered, that being light function materials. We're going to be recreating this iconic horror-themed hallway light, that being the flickering mechanic that you see here, and we will be combining it with this warehouse build here. Hopefully, we can create an iconic scene, but before we get to that, we're going to have to create the light itself. So without further ado, let's begin. Alright folks, so in order to create a light function material, we want to find a place to put it first. In our content browser, I've actually got a file that I have named game, this green one you see here. Clicking on that, I have a materials folder. Now you can place your materials wherever you want. I choose to keep mine in a separate folder just so they're easy to find or easy to migrate if I need them. Inside that folder, you're going to have this empty space. Right click on the space and create a material instance here. This gives you a blank material that you'll need a naming convention for. I will name mine as Flickering Light with an underscore. Enter. And now that that's created, I didn't spell that correctly, but that's fine. Now that that's created, click on it. It brings you into this node here. This is where you're going to be seeing all of your effects. This is what we're going to be building off of. But this is not what we want for a flickering light. So we're going to come over here to Material Domain, click on Surface, and you're going to select Light Function. Now we only have a emissive color. This is what we want. Off in the empty space, we're going to right click and do a time node. Off of time node, we're going to do a multiply. And off of multiply, we're going to do a constant by holding down 1 and left clicking. That constant is going to have a value of 1, and we are going to multiply time by it. That's going to create a solid effect, and that effect we can actually preview. This is what we have so far. It's going to be a light that's being emitted by this effect, but this is not what we want. We want to flicker. So off of multiply, we're going to do a sine node. Sine is going to give us this flickering effect, but this isn't very pronounced, and we're going to want it to be a little bit more randomized. So off of sine, we are also going to do a fraction node. Not with a T, just a C. Now that we have fraction, preview the node, we get this more randomized effect. It's not actually random, but it gives a much better flicker effect than just the sine mode would. Plug that into emissive color and we are ready to go. We can now put this effect on any light source that we want, and it should give us this flickering effect on whatever we do. Alright, now that we have a light created, now we can add it to a level. Since this is going to be a horror-style flickering light effect, we will create a large open environment where we can see the effect well. Since these builds take a while to create, I will speed up the process and give you guys some music to listen to in the meantime. However, if you wish to see the finalized product, skip ahead in the video and you'll be able to see the light in action. Now let's get into it. Alright everybody, now that we have our light function material created and we have our level created, we can now apply both together and see if we can create an iconic scene. Now as you can see, we have all these individual lights up above us, and when we go to start the level, you can see it actually lights up pretty well, all things considered. I think that we can change the light levels a little bit to make it a little bit more occlusive, but for the most part, this looks pretty good, and I think it'll look better with the effect on it. Now, I did make one minor adjustment to our ceiling light, that being giving it a public variable here. Going into the ceiling light, I can actually show you what I did. This is our light function material setting. This is on both our rectangular light and our spotlight, both of which are going to have the same flickering effect so that it looks natural. And what I did, I just set the light material function on both of these to the construction script. So this runs even in the editor. This runs before the level even starts. So we'll be able to see the effect even without having to start the game. This is set to a public variable function here that is instance editable, which means if we go back to our level, if I select any of these ceiling lights, you can see the light material function is a setting that can be selected now. So if we go into game and we go into materials, we can now take this light and let's focus on this ceiling light real quick. You can see it has a pretty wide range. Let's set the flickering light material to it. Look at that. Flickering light material. You can see it having an effect on this shelf right here. That looks pretty cool, actually. So now what we're going to do is select random lights on the ceiling, and we're going to apply this same material to all of them. So excluding our first one, let's get started. Alright, now that we have a bunch of lights selected, we can now add this material flicker just by dragging it straight onto the light function. And now you can see the effect is pretty prominent. Let's start the level and see what it looks like. Ah, look at that. Light is actually flickering. It's got pretty good lighting. Looks alright, I suppose, but we can make it look better. And I think the way that we do this, we're actually going to select something from our lighting. We're going to go to exponential height fog, sky atmosphere, there we go. By setting our max fog opacity to 0.1, let's do 0.01 actually. Get a bit darker. That looks good. You can see the flickering lights a little bit better that way. Fog scattering, atmosphere color, let's make that a little bit darker. That looks pretty good. We'll set it like that. Select this, go back to these. And we will select we'll go ahead and select all of these lights, all descendants, there we go. And let's actually make these a little bit brighter if we can. I don't think we can from here. So instead, let's go into our geometry, our ceiling light, vent, viewport, there we go. Rectangle and spotlight. The intensity on both of these is 10. We can actually set this, let's do 15. Looks a little bit more prominent. And let's get a little bit more of a yellowed color, I think. A little bit bluer. Oh. Well, it genuinely doesn't seem to like that, but I will take it. There you go. Get a little bit more of a yellow color off of that. Select. Back out. Do that. I do like the yellow on the dark background. That does look good. But I don't like that it's all lit up over here. Let's check this out real quick. I think I see what's going on. So what we are going to do, we're going to go back to our warehouse. We're going to go to our directional light, and we are going to make that 3. Well, that doesn't seem to have helped. Let's put that back to 10. My apologies. We actually get this really nice effect of the skylight coming in. Ooh, maybe that's a little bit too much. Ooh. That looks good. All right. So I think I know what we need to do. We're actually going to select all of these floors. And we are going to create... We're going to convert these to a static mesh. Go into game, geometry, and we will do floor. Save. There it is. Next, we're going to go into ceiling, and we're going to select all descendants of the ceiling. Go into actor, do the same thing. We are going to convert it all to a static mesh in geometry, and we will do ceiling. And we will do the same thing with the walls. All descendants, actor, static mesh. There we go. Now we can open all 3 of these. And on each of these, we're actually going to scroll all the way down. Complexity, use complex as simple. We'll do that on each of these, and it should create a barrier for our player to walk into. It'll also create a barrier for light to not pass through. Now this looks proper spooky, if I do say so myself. Lights can be a little bit brighter, but overall, I'd say that this was a pretty good success. Let's make the lights just a tad bit brighter real quick to see what we can do. Let's do 20. Maybe a little bit brighter. That looks much better. Go in. I'd say this was a pretty good success. Nice, big, open, and very spooky environment. Perfect. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to subscribe. And if you enjoyed the music, check out Francis Bonin Music here on YouTube. Remember to hit that notify bell if you want to stay up to date on our future videos. And feel free to leave a comment if there's a specific topic that you want us to cover. We'll be covering a different topic in each video, and each topic is going to have its own level design as well. I hope this week's video has given some inspiration, or perhaps answered some of your questions. Stay tuned for upcoming videos and builds, and until next time, remember, go out and make an impact.